Hear the sage as his song descends like heaven's rain or tears, and washes the years, the dust of the many stories from the high tale of Dragonlance, for in ages deep past memory and word, in the first blush of the world, when the 3 moons rose from the lap of the forest, dragons, terrible and great, made war on this world of Krynn. We are going to delve into the Dragonlance series and the Drizzt Do'Urden books with some breakdown and summaries, maybe even a little compare and contrast. The Dragonlance series being the focus of this video, and more precisely the first 3 chapters. I guess once I'm done with the first book, I'll combine them for those who just want the full story in one click. So the Dragonlance Chronicles Volume 1, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, starts off with the Canticle of the Dragon, that beautiful, great exposition dump poem by Michael Williams, and then a prologue involving one of the most sacred places in Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, and for a lot of people busting their ass all week, and that would be the tavern, or inn as it's called in these books. We are immediately introduced to pretty Tika Whalen and her jovial boss Odik at the Inn of the Last Home. The inn is in Solace, and we find out that the town of Solace, after the cataclysms, was dangerous and the inhabitants took to the enormous trees. The inn is high up in one of these great Valenwood trees. An old man, wink wink, enters and begins to rearrange the furniture in the inn like he is setting up for a party. And when Tika asks him if he is, he responds that he is indeed setting up for a party of which Krynn has never seen. We then jump into Chapter 1, where we are first introduced to Flint Fireforge, who is the hill dwarf and fighter with a battle axe strapped to his back. He was a blacksmith in Solace before he retired for that, the easy life of an adventuring fighter. We'll put that at the 2 on the sarcasm scale. He is stocky and muscular even for a dwarf, and has a habit of talking to himself, which he is doing when Tanis half-elven surprises him. These two, after some hellos and cracks about Tanis growing a beard, which elves can't do, we get some of Tanis's backstory, that he is the result of a human raping his elf mother, and he is pretty much shunned by both elves and humans, so the worst of both worlds. These two start their trek for the inn to meet with a group that all have taken a sacred vow of some sort to meet back after 5 years in Solace at the Inn of the Last Home. They next meet up with Tasslehoff, barefoot, a rogue Kender. Kenders being a race that has a clear case of sticky fingers. Kenders just like to obtain things they like or find interesting, and even if they're not theirs. They also have an uncanny knack for trash talking. He is about Flint's height, but wiry thin with the face of a child. While Flint and Tass are wrestling because Tass pocketed Flint's coin bag on the greeting hug, a hobgoblin rides up and demands they be arrested for being out in the road. A couple of quick things that I thought I'd mention right here is Kender's invention, the Hoopak staff we get introduced to, which produces a sound much like, we're going to hit the Wayback Machine for the device, Crocodile Dundee, used in Crocodile Dundee 2. We also get some great subtle technique in describing someone as an evil douche, with the hobgoblin riding up, and the ride is a small furry pony as it's described, with its head down as if ashamed of its rider. I thought that was a slick way of letting us know that the rider was a dick. Now the hobgoblin demands that they be arrested for being out in the road, and then he rides away and leaves a group of goblins to carry out his order, telling them to search for the blue staff, and if they resist, to kill them. Our first look at combat in this book ensues with the goblins getting destroyed quickly. They got their asses whooped, so we know the beginning 3 are well trained and fight together as a team good. They mention how Solace ain't what it used to be. Flint complains that goblins smell like shit, and Tanis asks Tass if he wants him to retrieve his dagger, and he replies no, because you can never get rid of the smell, and besides, the dagger was really Flint's anyway. And the second chapter finds us at the Inn of the Last Home with it packed, and the smell of Odik's spicy potatoes soothes our companions' troubled souls, obviously making them think of home, which they are. Tasslehoff's keen eyes spot Caramon, the huge teddy bear of a fighter, and soon after his twin brother Raistlin, the wizard. Now, Raistlin has changed drastically since they last saw him. He took a test given by his order at the too young age of 20 and almost died passing said test that clearly has shaken up his huge brother. His skin has turned pale and his eyes golden. He explains that he now sees all things and his body is broken beyond repair, yet it was worth it to attain the power he now has, and along with the Staff of Mages, which we get the Staff of Mages. The staff is topped by a crystal in the clutching claw of a bronze dragon. This mahogany staff is an ancient weapon of the wizards of high society. I could probably do a video on the staff itself, but for now, in the interest of the story, we will leave it at Tanis is terribly impressed and a bit concerned that Raistlin has it. The three then get reintroduced to Tika, who they haven't seen since she was a young teenager. She delivers a note to Tanis that has bad news that Kittiera will not be joining them. She is the twins' older half-sister. Now, the third chapter begins with us finding out Tanis and Kittiera were together 5 years ago. She had left with Sturm 5 years ago and now clearly serves someone other than the companions. Tika explains that she didn't get a good look at the deliverer of the message, but the old man by the fire did. However, before they get to focus on him, they spot Sturm Brightblade in full Knight of Solamnia armor. Sturm holds the door for two barbarians from the plains, one incredibly beautiful and the other one clearly her bodyguard. He comes over to the group and has basically the same reaction everyone has to Raistlin's appearance. He's like, what the f... Sturm has no more info than anyone else on Kittiera. Tanis daydreams about Kittiera as Sturm tells of his travels that had him recovering his father's armor and sword. Tasslehoff interrupts, asking about the barbarians, and the bodyguard is about a foot taller than the 6-foot Caramon, who is huge, and the woman holds a staff. Sturm found them outside of town, and he brought them in here. The Inn of the Last Home, of course, is a well-known place of refuge, and it has, great food and drink. They all exchange stories of being harassed by officials about a blue crystal staff. This is around when Tasslehoff, who is easily bored, started to look around and caught a good look at the woman barbarian, and she was breathtaking. Her and her companion are seated by the old man. He also spotted nearby drunk Hendrik, the high theocrat, who was watching the old man tell stories to some children. Tasslehoff spots the coming problem and alerts the others, and they all stare at the woman, obviously caught gawking. The old man is asked by one of the children if his stories are true, and he says yes, and that these two carry stories as well, indicating the two barbarians. The woman declines, but the old man, calling her by name, asks her to sing. At this point, the bodyguard notices the other staring at her and puts a hand on his sword, as Sturm explains that she is a royal in her tribe, and the bodyguard is probably a little more than just a bodyguard to her. The old man has a lute appear out of nowhere, hands it to the woman to play and sing. The entire inn quiets to listen to her sing. She sings a song that gives us the backstory of Riverwind the bodyguard and Goldmoon the chieftain's daughter. Once again, a beautiful poem just dumping out backstory. Her song finishes with the old man telling a story of the ancient god Paladine. This all leads to that theocrat being a basic dick and demanding the old man be arrested for blasphemy, along with Goldmoon and Riverwind for her song that he deemed indecent. He then tries to take Goldmoon's staff. Riverwind gives him a little push, and then the theocrat, on a drunken catastrophe, tumbles into the fire. Tasslehoff, at the old man's request, uses Goldmoon's staff to knock this burning idiot down, and the man goes down but heals instantly like nothing happened. He really flips out then, and the companions wind up involved. The entire tavern is alerted, and the old man points out that the companions saying they are involved, forcing them to team up. Sturm, being a stubborn knight, not wanting to retreat from the townsfolk or the guards that are on their way, Tanis convinces him that there's a lady, Goldmoon, to protect. They all slip out the back, where there's a hole with a rope that drops down to the ground, which is about 40 feet down. Tika tells them all to hide out at her house. They make their way on the ground and in the darkness to the tree that holds Tika's house. A quick lockpick by Tasslehoff, and, obviously he rolled enough, and they are in. This brings us to the end of the chapter, and they all agree that this is the staff that everyone is looking for. They hear the troops going from house to house looking for them. Goldmoon heals Tanis' hands that were torn up from sliding down the rope. He says in disbelief, true healing to end the chapter, so we get the idea that true healing and the like is something that's disappeared from Krynn, most likely due to the cataclysm they keep mentioning. If you stayed this long and enjoyed our Reader's Digest version of the first 3 chapters of Dragons of the Autumn Twilight, I'll try to get the next 3 chapters up next week. I'm also going to probably bounce up some of the Driz do Durden stuff, maybe with Driz's Guide to the Underworld to start it off so you get a flavor for what's going on down there. And until then, thank you. Hit that like and sub if you could, and we will see you real soon with some more monstery goodness and other escapades from a strange reality. Until then, stay frosty and aware, and thank you. Thank you very much.